This is for the leaders, the visionaries, the hope bringers, kindness instigators. This is your place to get loved, poured into, activated, and inspired. There we go. Well, good morning. Welcome to Fireside Friday. We have hit March. Today's March 6th, 2026. I don't know about you, but there's been some energy moving through this year. And for me, I had a really big release last week, which was so needed. Um, and I missed being in the space with you guys. Friday, when I would have been here last Friday, would have been my dad's 62nd birthday. And I was there. Well, we this year we decided to go as a family on a little trip over his birthday, just me, my mom, and my two brothers. And we've acknowledged his birthday usually every year, sometimes with a small get together. Um, but usually it's involved other people. And this is the first year that we've really done something just by ourselves. Um, and that felt really nice to me. I found myself also on Friday judging myself a little bit because I didn't have any specific intention or way to feel like I had created something to honor him, either writing or I don't know, putting something together. But it was through a text message with Serge that he said to me something like, if I passed and I knew that you and Kai were spending time together, that would be something that just feels really good and honoring to me. And I think too, one of the things that is complicated in our life is that sometimes we overcomplicate or try to earn or work for or arrive at something when all we really are asked to be doing sometimes is just to be present, to just to be together with nature or our family or with one another. And I think a lot of times, I think this comes from our modern push and the leaders and the way that our systems are set up, at least in the Western world, to honor hustle over presence, quite honestly, that we would. I heard from a friend this week that she was with a group, and one of the things they were talking about is that um, it's like a saying, it's like, don't just sit there, do something. And what they were talking about was they said, well, what we're seeing too is a lot of like rushing to a lot of haphazard things, a lot of things that feel rushed in our culture, and that pace of like push, push, push. And what they were talking about is what would it look like actually if instead of the energy was don't just sit there, do something, to be don't just do something, sit there. Don't just do something, sit there. What if instead, like being in the presence of our own energetic heartbeat, our own needs, and then also our own desire for creativity, for the things that we long to be in the world. What if we sat long enough to hold them ourselves, to dream about them, to infuse them with the grounded energy of our presence and our true desires? What would that look like? What would that feel like? And many of you in this space are already doing a lot of this. You're intentional healers, and you are here to bring great change. And one of the things that has been coming up for me as of late, especially being around my family, and in this dynamic of push from my own spirit, it's not a push so much as it is, or it used to be kind of um, like a pressure. And what I've needed that to shift to is less of pressure and more of an invitation. And I think a lot of times that energy is really different. Am I pressuring myself to perform, to make something for my dad's birthday, to honor him in some specific way, a ritual I created or something, which all of those happened in a very organic way, on their own. It didn't need my facilitation, it just needed my participation. And I didn't have anything else to bring in that moment either. I was depleted, I was spent, and I needed to give a lot of things that I was holding to that ocean, to a depth that I felt deep enough could hold all of the things I was feeling. And I feel like that's really also a journey I'm on right now, is learning how to hold both the light and the dark and being with both things, not perpetually pushing towards the light because that feels like something that feels more like that's where I want to be. I want to be happy and abundant and vibrant. And sometimes in our sadness, that's not how we feel. But learning how to hold that sadness and also just feel that sadness, to be present with those things, is also how we find that equilibrium, because sometimes too we're just imbalanced. I heard once too, there was a woman saying she didn't believe in balance, but she believed in harmony. Because sometimes the balance, the scales, we long for it to look a specific way. We want the story to go a specific way. This is also something that Serge and I struggle with, is if he's watching something like a movie or whatever, um, it could be almost any storyline, and he's going to be engaged because he loves hearing stories. For me, I have a little bias, and what I usually want to watch is something that feels really redemptive, something that you walk away with some kind of message where I don't need the bad guy to be vanquished, but I need something to take forward as a lesson, or as something that often feels redemptive. That is my archetype bent, I guess. And my dad was the same way. Um, but one of the things that happened also this week is I'm re-listening to a series called Fourth Wing. Um, and one of the key things that they're not key, but it's part of it, is that they've got some characters in the mix who are children of leaders who led a what they called a rebellion against the government, and or the powers that be. And of course the empire is the one who's telling the story, and you kind of watch how they move the generations. So it's the older generation who talks about the parents of these young ones. You're, rebellion leaders. You were rebellious. You are part of the rebellion. Everything pushing up against that. It's like, not okay. Um, Against the grain. Rebellion feels a little, you know, like rebellious, obviously, but it's that nature of you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing. And often in our lineage, that's how a lot of our work instigates in us. It can. At least that's how it's felt for me. For me, it's felt a little rebellious to feel like I'm moving into territory that my family wouldn't understand. And this is what I was starting to say, of being with my family, seeing some of the ways that they react to things that my spirit is like, ah, whether it be like a psychic reading, or people who are doing energy work. A lot of times, too, my close family will kind of wrinkle their nose. Um, and so I could stay in that energy of feeling like I'm in the rebellion, of I am pushing up against that thing. But what I appreciate about what they've done with these characters is that they don't feel like they're in a rebellion. They feel like they're here to lead a revolution. And again, it's a different kind of energy. Rebellion is pushing up against, to me, a revolution, although it feels big. It doesn't feel like it's pushing up against. It feels more like an invitation. And what I love too, I was looking at the word specifically: a rebellion, a violent act, resistance. It's not allowed, against the grain. A revolution is often looked at as a successful, um, freeing kind of movement. But it's usually like a structural overhaul of what is going on and what has been happening. And it takes time. Both things take time and energy, right? And we need different parts of that. But what I want us to be in the energy of is remembering that we are here to, yes, rebel in some ways against things that don't serve us anymore, and we don't belong to, we don't actually place ourselves under, but we are here also to create a revolution of change. We are the torchbearers of this revolution, of this structural overhaul. And a lot of that, too, I think a lot of us, at least for me, I thought it looked a specific way that was given to me, usually by a patriarchal system around bro marketing and whatever that looks like, hustle culture, grind until you can't anymore, push, push, push. That is the old model. And it doesn't feel good. And most of us here listening are women. It doesn't feel good to our systems to push, to ignore, to not be in communication and relationship with ourselves, with one another. And that's why some of you too are feeling so off kilter because we're still reaching for some of those old models that actually don't even feel good. And a lot of times too, we can't even see it because we're just too close. We're too close to it. We're like, well, I'm just what did I hear yesterday in a text thread that I was in? Well, I'm just unbalanced. And all I wanted to say to that was, are you unbalanced or are you inside of a system that wasn't built for you to prosper? It wasn't built for you to thrive. It was built to take, to excavate. But here's the thing, that is not the paradigm that we are moving forward toward. That is not the paradigm that we are here to usher in this revolution. I believe the feminine is coming in now to be in relationship, to be in communication. And yes, sometimes those talks feel heightened. They're going to feel friction. It's not going to feel in harmony and balance and unity quite yet. There's still questions. There's still us learning how to build the strength through the contractions that are happening of what we want to hold and move forward with, what we want to infuse into the work that we're doing. And that takes a lot of our presence before our doing. And so, one of the things too that I've been thinking a lot about as well, the word that kept coming to me this morning was also possibility. A lot of the times too, we are looking at the old model or around people who are repeating to us, well, this is just how the way things are. Not if we believe that there's another way. Not if we're here to usher in a different way, to challenge the systems that exist, to reorganize, to bring the essence of our femininity, our womanhood into our leadership, into the work we're doing, and we fuse that in. But again, I started to say this a little earlier too. Sometimes we're too close. Sometimes it's challenging for us to believe in the impulses that we believe that we're here to bring. And I'm a primary example of this. I have been talking about for the last couple of years, I'm working on a book. Where's the book? I don't know. It exists. It exists in so many different ways. I have put in some of that work, but for me, some of the things that I've been in resistance to is not only the discipline of just working in the writing medium of like coming to the table, but still coming up against that perfectionism of, well, it doesn't feel exciting. It doesn't feel like it's going to matter. All of these things that show up for me as the internal narrator. And a lot of times when I'm listening to those critics, to those bands of limitation, it is because I'm also not ready. Like on some levels, it is that resistance is still me choosing and clinging to what is there for me already. And I can choose that as long as I want. And you know what? I could go to my grave that way. I could choose to do that. But there is something in our spirits that often does instigate, pushes back, goes, well, what if we try? What if we do that thing? That thing that whispers, that calls, um, that is longing to come through us. What would that look like if we were listening and looking towards that revolution and believe that we're here to steward that in? But that does take time. It also takes, again, that belief that it's possible. So I feel like the other thing that I was being drawn into, being like reminded of, is like who's around us. What are the people around us saying about the things that we believe that we want to have in our lives, in our world? What are our partners saying about what's possible? What are our friends saying about what's possible? And it's not that you need to remove them entirely. It's just that sometimes we need to limit our proximity to people who don't make us feel like change is possible. Because if you're in this space, you are here to bring change. You are already doing it just in your presence. And that is also beautiful in itself. I think the other thing that has always, it's like a internal conversation. I'm always like super drawn to these massive trees. It's like I get stopped in my tracks by the size. But I'm always stunned again by remembering that the seed of a tree, the nut of a tree, is so little. That's how it all started. It all started, these birthing pains all started as little seeds in the soil. And that each and every time that we believe in that, maybe we're putting out a root. Maybe a root is down in the soil. And then also, what will we do? Are we watering it? Are we watering the seed? Are we believing the seed can grow? Do we even believe that we want the garden that we're growing? That was the other thing that's coming up for me. There's a lot of energy right now of change, of being ushered in. And I think also our identity in that. Maybe it's time to change the badge that you feel like you've been wearing. What would it look like to offer the title you feel like you're unqualified for, but your soul goes, ooh, like, ooh, that does something, even if it's a little scary, even if our family might not understand. And that is something too that we have to choose. We get to choose. And we do that. Like I said, it doesn't have to be in these grand moments. And trust me, I'm still a student of this. Every time I come into the space and speak in Fireside, I'm speaking to me too. The medicine that we bring to the world is also medicine for us, right? It's also there to feed and nourish us. And so I love this idea again of moving out of the language of being in a rebellion and instead being in the invitation of the revolution. Again, both big, they both feel very big to me, but I do feel like the energy is a little different. And that's again just it's a subtle difference, but I feel like it's powerful. And at any time, we are able to also shift that dial just a little bit. Another example of this is earlier, I've got all of the windows open in here. And there was a train coming through, and I was like trying to focus in and tap in, and it was loud. And it was funny because my initial reaction to that was, ooh, I wonder if that horns, those loud horns, the screeching of the wheels is actually attuning my frequency differently here for me in a different way. Whereas I could see the train and the noise as an annoyance, as this thing that's getting in the way of my productivity. It's getting in the way of me being so fully present, so serious, whatever that is. Um, it's all about that perspective of leaning into what's happening. And maybe those wheels did nothing for me, but my belief and the energy behind that is very different. What kind of energy comes from me going, like, I'm in that contraction. And again, sometimes we are in that frictiony, scratchy, like it doesn't feel quite right moment. And that is actually for us too. It's actually moving us and going, okay, well, like the sweater doesn't fit, the fabric's not for you. What would that look like? What would it look like for you to change into something that feels more free flowing, or you want more structure? I don't know what that is for you as you listen, but we choose each and every day. I'm thinking about now Mr. Rogers, how he was putting on his cardigans, taking them off, tying his shoes, all the things. Every piece of that is a choice. What we put on, what we lean into, what we imbue our own energy field with is a choice. And if you're feeling like you're in a space too where you don't have the energy to find, just ask. Ask and notice. There was this very, I'm gonna pull up my little photos here because I was struck by it. It said, God spoke today in flowers, and I, who was waiting on words, almost missed the conversation. God spoke today in flowers, and I, who was waiting on words, almost missed the conversation. Sometimes, too, these movements that we're calling in, oftentimes, they really don't look how we anticipated. And oftentimes, too, it's because what we're looking for, expecting, comes from the examples around us. And we're here to have our own unique experience. It doesn't mean that things won't find parallel in the other stories around us, that we won't find those things. But that we can also remember that we're inside of a story and a conversation that's uniquely our own. And the things that we notice that call to us, those are meant for us. I believe this. I believe that we are drawn to colors or sounds or sights or specific moments that we're playing in our mind for a reason. I think that we're always communicating. Um, and we are always coming into contact with more opportunities to be in that conversation, whatever that gets to look like in the moment. Okay, let's look at our card here today. Oh, our song also this week is called Revolution by The Score. I don't have the lyrics pulled up, but it's a good one. So it'll be added to the playlist and linked in the show notes if you want to check that out. But today we are pulling from the Angels and Ancestors Oracle. And today we have the Water Guardian. Connect with your emotions. Message. Take time to understand how you really feel. Know that your sensitivity is not a curse, but a gift that allows you to receive and understand messages directly from your soul. About this card. Water is the element that is in your blood, your tears, and your flesh. The water guardian represents the angels of water who can help you dive within to understand the depth of your emotions. These angels are all about helping you see that your emotions aren't just the feelings that are on the surface. They are also the old emotions you may have locked deep within the shadows of your soul. Through helping you acknowledge your deepest emotions, the angels of water help you to hear the messages they have for you and to unlock your intuitive powers and the energies of abundance. The extended message of the card. Your angels want you to know that it's okay to feel the emotions that are surfacing in you at this time. It doesn't matter if they are joyous or sad, they are all powerful messengers that allow you to understand what you want and need. Taking time to breathe and acknowledge them lets them flow through you rather than crashing down on you as an overwhelming wave. Note that there are also intuitive psychic messages arising in you at this time, and unless you acknowledge everything as it comes up, you may miss important guidance that can lead you to support and love. So I love this too because it's feeling, right? Allowing ourselves to feel our feelings. Those are messengers. And also that we're always receiving messages if we have eyes to see them. Goes back to I was looking for words and God spoke in flowers. What does that look like for you as you head into your weekend? What could this time of possibility of revolution mean for you if you were willing to be before you were doing and to allow yourself to choose what you're going to put on, not just something you're pulling out of your closet because it's what you've been wearing, and obviously these are all metaphors for our life, right? We don't have to continue to be in the same energy that felt like the people in our life could hold it. Sometimes, and again, if you're listening, you weren't here to be energy that was held. I mean, yes, your soul is always being held, but you were here to bring an intense energy of change. And that doesn't have to mean intensity as far as pushing. Um, Again, for me, which is so interesting to watch, is that most of the time, my revolution is actually in being still with my family, around my family, and holding that. Um, and because it makes a lot of them uncomfortable. And for a long time, I felt like that made me lazy. I'm not as productive. But really, what I'm doing is I'm challenging the busy energy that I actually don't really believe in. I think it's chaotic and it doesn't really serve us. But I had to again shift my relationship with that and understand that that's part of the healing that I bring. Is that a lot of times I'm actually slowing people down so that they can speed up in a different direction and be infused in a different way. And again, I've had to learn how to hold that differently, not in judgment as the world has taught, but in service and in partnership that my soul has imbued. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the weekend brings for us all and sending you with so much love. I'll see you next week, you revolutionaries.